Time to get into another story here on One About Podcasting, why sugar babies do not deserve the negative stigma. And I actually agree with this story. So yourtango.com puts the story out here. Sarah Dow writes this. She describes what a sugar relationship is. Okay. The question she first poses here as we move along into the article is is every relationship considered a sugar relationship? If a man buys a woman dinner, should she be shamed for it? So she was on a date with him. He bought her something. It was his money and he paid for her to come out. That's not seen as a problem. The problem is with the label and occasionally the age gap. People accept gifts or money, and oftentimes they do it because they feel the need the money, or they may need the gift that was given. We don't know the situation going on with the sugar baby. They may need help with their rent and have no other option, a new pair of shoes. It may be out of her price range, but there's no reason she doesn't deserve to pamper herself. We talk about women supporting women, but when we find out another woman is in this type of relationship, it's a frowned upon. People will whisper behind her back, and it gets closely compared to prostitution. Listen, with younger women, they have youth and beauty. And I've learned long enough through all the books that I've read and all the research and all the discussions I've had that a younger woman, if she's going to go out there and she has pretty privilege, there is such a thing. If a guy wants to go ahead and take her out because she's pretty or they're attracted to her, there's no obligation by her to do anything at all to get that. And does it matter what she's getting it for? No. I used to think there was a problem with that. I used to remember having to go out on dates on a first date, and I used to go and take out the girls out to dinner all the time. You got nothing for it. And I just really realized, yeah, that's what I did. I took a girl because she was pretty. And I met her somewhere wherever I met her, got a phone number or met on a dating site, and I took him out. And you know what? I should have realized that was the case. And guys just need to realize that, you know what? It is part of the whole thing. Now, there are some girls that absolutely are going to go ahead and offer to go ahead and pay their part, go Dutch, sure. But then also the other part where if you're going to go out with them on the first date anyway, or go out on a date in general, there's the whole idea of it's not even so much if you're going to go ahead and take your girl out to dinner. It's a matter of where you take her out. And if there's a value that needs to be put into that relationship, because some girls are going to absolutely realize that there's this whole value quotient. They want to be considered, that they're a high value woman, and a high value woman needs to be taken to a high value place. So you have to go ahead and show a good time to her based on what level of value she thinks she is, her worth. And you need to realize that comes with the territory. I mean, for you guys that don't want to accept that, you're going to have to. That's the way it is now. That's the way it's been made. Because you know what? There are some women that might be, and I'm not saying all, but there's some women that are going to be out there. They're going to be raised by single women. And those women are going to be told, you have all the blessings, the youth and beauty you can possess to give you the wisdom and to give you what you need to go forward with your life so that you can make something of yourself. And that's a biological thing. Women have youth and beauty, and they provide a value and a worth to a partner. And when you go into something like this, there's a whole thing where guys don't need to go ahead and take a girl out just so she get a new pair of shoes or a new dress or anything like that. But you know what? We do it anyway. Because if the guys have the money for it, then they'll do that anyway. Or the girl can do it herself. Obviously, there's a lot more girls that are more independent now than ever, and they could go and get what they want. But then again, there's something about they don't need to go and spend their own money if they can find somebody else to spend theirs. It's a common thing. I don't blame women anymore for it. I realize it's just the way it is. It is what it is. And we shouldn't be so concerned about the fact that it's going to be that's just the way things are. I don't concern myself with it anymore. I just realize that's the way things are. And that's okay. It really is. I mean, so for some people, it's kind of hard for them to really appreciate or to accept that. And I understand that they don't want to have that. That's okay. But what are you going to do? You just need to realize the fact that that's just the way things are in society. Society has changed with that. And then the next story she brings up is when we talk about self-care, loving ourselves and pampering ourselves when we need to. It said we deserve it. Why doesn't she deserve it? And the story that she says, a sugar baby doesn't deserve to be shamed. It's their business. Sugar babies often enjoy spending their time with their sugar daddy. It may not be a conventional relationship, but it's still a relationship. Stop shaming people for having a relationship different than yours. Not everything's going to be the same. Not all relationships are storybook romances. Not all relationships are conventional. You know what? That's okay. She's right. Now, the other thing, too, is that for those women out there or those guys out there, if you don't realize the kind of money you're spending on a relationship, or I mean, there's really not much of a difference between a sugar relationship and a conventional relationship. To be honest, money is still being spent. In some cases, that's really the same thing. But the difference is the sugar relationships, there's actually an allowance, which is what I'm being discussed here. But there's an actual, like, it's like you're spending like a paycheck. You're giving you're putting somebody on payroll, basically. But she's talking about here about getting gifts. Well, that can be considered sugar as well as a conventional relationship. They're both one and the same. So keep that in mind. If you're going to go ahead and go after somebody, I agree with this story about the negative stigma. The point is, there's nothing wrong with it anyway. It's just part of life. That's just an acceptable form of behavior now. It might not have been 20, 30 years ago, but it is now more than ever. Because some girls are being raised that way to feel like, oh, it's okay. I'm going to do it like this. Yeah, sure. I mean, it's too bad it's that way, but that's where we are now. That's where things have gone. We need to go ahead and just be much more understanding and realize, you know what? It's not as bad as, I mean, it's the way things are. We need to just realize it is what it is society. And for us to get all caught up and bent out of shape about it, guys, it shouldn't be. Just realize, that there's only so many women out there and so many guys out there that are in for relationships in the real deal. And it doesn't matter what you have. It's actually based off of love and not based on status. Okay. But status is important now in relationships, especially when you're younger. Not even just status, but personality. We've talked about troublemakers. We've talked about people that are rule breakers, people that are just different, bad boys. That is something that happens in a younger sense. When you get older, you realize that's not so important. But you know what? The guys out there that are young, going after the young girls, you might as well have the understanding to realize that's the way things are right now. Don't think you're going to be the exception to the rule. Just realize that's the rule. Facts. That's all I'm spinning our facts here. I'm going to leave it there. Very important subject. We'll talk more about this next time.